Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Vinjamoori and welcome to my channel where we're going to focus on the fundamentals of how biology influences performance. Now, whether we're talking about sports, business, or even daily life, performance is really a function of biology. And if we have the right tools and if we have the right understanding of how biology works, we can use that understanding to help us perform at our best. And so on this channel, we're going to draw on insights and learnings from some of the top performers in the world in sports, business, and other areas, as well as an understanding of the evolving science of our own biology to come up with a toolkit to help you perform at your best. And so whether you're an Olympic athlete or just someone trying to improve your everyday life, I hope that you're going to find some useful insights to take away from this channel. What I want to start with today is an overview of what I would consider to be the four foundational systems of performance from a biological perspective. And so these are the four areas that I want to make sure I have a good understanding of when I'm working with someone to improve their performance. So let me just list these out and then we can dive into each of them in detail. The first is hormones. Hormones, as you may know, are the chemical messengers that different parts of our body use to talk to one another, and they play a huge role in regulating our mood, our sleep, our ability to think and focus, among many other things. The second is metabolism, which is essentially our body's ability to take in nutrition or nutrients and convert it into energy. The third is inflammation and immune system. The immune system actually plays a major role in facilitating recovery from exercise, from stress, and a variety of other factors in our environment. And so having a balanced and healthy immune system is important for a variety of aspects that relate to performance. And what we see is that when we have dysfunction in the immune system, we often get a process known as inflammation, which is essentially when the immune system has become overactivated and is now destroying healthy tissue. And so in the immune system and balance of the immune system and low inflammation turns out to be really important for optimal performance. And the fourth and final area that I like to look at is brain and cognitive function. So the brain is essentially the motherboard for our bodies. It regulates our mental function, it regulates our physical function in a variety of ways. And so having the right balance and function of the brain turns out to be critical to optimizing performance. And we'll go into more detail about what that actually means later. So let's start with hormones and go into a little bit more detail on that. So hormones, as I mentioned before, are chemical messengers that different parts of our body use to talk to one another. And there are several hormones that turn out to be super important in the context of performance. Now, in men, testosterone, it turns out to be extremely important. Testosterone helps to regulate metabolism, it regulates muscle growth, it regulates libido, a whole bunch of other things in men. And we know that diminished testosterone levels are associated with a variety of problems that men encounter later in life. In women, estrogen and progesterone are, of course, very important hormones, and we know that their decrease is associated with menopause, which happens as women enter their 40s and 50s. But testosterone is actually really important for women as well. And all of these hormones play a crucial role for women as well in regulating mental function, in regulating mood, regulating metabolism. They're all super important for setting the baseline for a lot of body functions. And so these are all very important. These so-called sex hormones are really important to understand. And we know that as we get older, all of these hormones can decline in their levels. We also know that a variety of other factors like stressors from the environment, from our diets, these can all cause issues with hormone levels independent of age. And so understanding where these sex hormones stand turns out to be super important in the context of performance. Now, thyroid hormone is another hormone that's super important for performance. And you can think about thyroid hormone as kind of being a master regulator of metabolism in the body. Thyroid hormone helps to activate a variety of processes in every cell in our bodies that drives the utilization of energy. And we know, again, that deficiencies in thyroid hormone can be associated with a variety of problems such as low energy, weight gain. And again, we know that thyroid hormone disturbances can happen with age as a result of stress and other factors like that in our lives. And so understanding all these hormones turns out to be super important for performance. And one of the things that I do as a baseline is measure all of these in a diagnostic test. So I look at TSH, T4, free T3 for thyroid. And for sex hormones, I like to look at free and total testosterone, DHEA, which is a precursor to testosterone, as well as estrogen and progesterone, and FSH in women. So next, let's turn to metabolism. So metabolism is essentially all of the pathways that our bodies use to convert nutrition or nutrients into energy. Now, I like to think about metabolism in two parts. Number one is nutrient sensing, and the second is mitochondrial function. And so nutrient sensing involves all the processes that our cells use to detect nutrition, like glucose, fat, other sources of fuel, and bring it into the body. So this implicates really important hormones like insulin, glucagon, and others. And the second is mitochondrial function. And so once we bring the nutrition into the cell, our mitochondria play a critical role in translating that nutrition into actual energy. And this is where processes like the citric acid cycle, the electron transport chain, and others play a crucial role. And so understanding how both of these are functioning, nutrient sensing and mitochondrial function, is really important for metabolism. And we know that disturbances to metabolism are associated with a variety of aspects that diminish performance. We have diminished mental clarity. We, of course, have weight gain. We have issues with mood, just a whole bunch of things that aren't good for performance. Now, the way that I like to measure these two key areas of metabolism are through blood and functional tests. Now, for nutrient sensing, the test that I like to use is hemoglobin A1C. This is going to give us a readout of how effective insulin is at driving nutrition into our cells. To assess the mitochondrial compartment, I like to use metabolomics testing, also known as organic acid testing, which is basically looking at breakdown products from the mitochondria to look how efficient and effective the mitochondria are being in providing energy. Now let's move on to the next major area, which is inflammation and immune system balance. Now, as I mentioned before, the immune system plays a crucial role in defending our body from foreign invaders like bacteria and viruses, also plays a role in clearing out defective cells and facilitating our response to stress and recovery from exercise and injury. So naturally, having a balanced and healthy immune system is really important for optimal function. Now, unfortunately, what we see is that in many people, for a variety of reasons, the immune system begins to malfunction. And what happens is that these cells, which are responsible for providing defense, facilitating recovery, start to malfunction in such a way that they attack healthy tissues. And this process is known as inflammation. And inflammation turns out to be very common, especially low levels of inflammation or chronic inflammation. And this chronic inflammation can cause a variety of things to happen that can get in the way of performance. And this can manifest itself in symptoms such as fatigue, soreness, brain fog. A whole range of symptoms can result from inflammation. And so naturally, controlling inflammation is going to be a crucial part of optimizing your performance. And so to get a good read on inflammation, there are a couple of diagnostic tests that I like to use. The first and most important probably is C-reactive protein, or CRP. This can be attained via a blood test. There's a couple of other tests that I like, such as homocysteine and oxidized LDL, which will give you a readout on inflammation in your blood vessels specifically. And finally, you can also get a sense as to how inflammation is playing out in your body by looking at the balance between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Both of these types of fatty acids can play a role in contributing to either more or less inflammation. So looking at the balance between those two can be informative. Let's look at the fourth major area, which is brain health and cognitive performance. As I mentioned before, the brain is the motherboard for the body. We know that it plays a crucial role in setting our mental state, our ability to focus, our mood, our ability to remember things. But the brain also plays a crucial role in regulating the function of our body. There are a couple of different lenses from which I like to look at brain function. The first is from the lens of neurotransmitters, and the second is from the lens of brain waves. So neurotransmitters are basically molecules that nerve cells in your brain use to talk to one another, and these play a crucial role in dictating overall brain activity. Some examples of neurotransmitters are things like dopamine, serotonin, and GABA. And having the right balance of these neurotransmitters is important to having overall good brain function. Now, the second lens is brain wave activity. So these nerve cells or neurons, in response to neurotransmitters, are going to generate electrical activity. And this electrical activity can take the form of different types of brain waves that can operate at different frequencies or exist at different frequencies. And these frequencies are associated with a variety of different mental states, from sleep all the way to focused attention. And so when you hear about brainwaves like delta, theta, alpha, beta, and so on, these are all associated with different mental states. Now, again, we know that having the right balance of neurotransmitters and having the right balance of brainwaves in different parts of the brain is going to be key for optimal performance. We also know that as a result of the stress of daily living and a variety of other factors in our lives, that this balance can be thrown off. And the consequence of that can be diminished performance. And so there are a couple of tools that I like to turn to understand brain health from these lenses. And so the first is what I'll call quantitative EEG, or QEEG. And what this is basically applying sensors to the brain, or applying sensors to the scalp to measure electrical activity in the brain. And this can give a readout of all the different brain waves throughout the brain to help us understand if we have that right balance or not. The second to measure neurotransmitter testing is metabolomics testing. This is the same metabolomics testing that I talked about before to measure mitochondrial activity. This can also measure neurotransmitter levels. And so this metabolomics testing, or organic acid testing, gives me a really good readout as to what are the relative levels of the different neurotransmitters. And so by getting this map of brain waves through the quantitative EEG and pairing that with information about neurotransmitter levels, I'm able to create a highly personalized and customized plan to address brain health. So today we've covered a lot of ground talking about these 4 foundational areas of performance. Now, in future videos, we're going to take a deeper dive into each of these areas and talk about specific tools and strategies that you can use to influence all of these and perform at your best. For now, though, I really appreciate you watching. And if you enjoyed what you've heard and looking forward to more content, please do subscribe and leave a like on this video. And if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to discuss, please leave them in the comments below. For now, though, thanks for listening. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.